it's drive shaft rebuild time. Having seeking some advice from the group, as always. These hubs, output shafts, whatever you want to call them, on the end of the drive shafts that go into the hubs, those big things there, are threaded, as you would expect, because obviously both wheels go one direction, but they're on opposite sides of the car. So this one is, if you can see, it's left-hand threaded, going down as I put the old hub nut back on. Left-hand threaded, or left threaded, and therefore this one goes on the driver's side. Just to make it 100% clear to myself, I'll put the other one down here on the passenger side, just to really remind me that I've got the right one. And so as a result, I've taken it out of the diff as well. I'm going to cover that up in a second, just while I do the work, so nothing gets inside the diff. Not that they're going to be out. Well, they might be out quite some time actually, because I need to then build up those which require all the bushings. But anyway, today's put the drive shaft together time. So the other one's over there. This is my one for now, driver's side. And we've got the end out the diff, which obviously does have some grease and some stuff on it. So I don't really want to get this covered in crap before it goes back in. So we'll need to be careful of that. I've taken the masking tape off the end. It all looks fine, all looks dandy, and so we're ready to go. Right, my lovers, decided to do one off camera, mainly because when I'm figuring stuff out, I don't like to be constantly messing around with video. So that's the end that goes in the diff. This is heavy. Now it's got these ends on, and that's obviously the end that goes in the hub. Pretty straightforward. I'll film the next one so that we can get some footage of actually in action. These were not necessarily that easy to actually slide onto here. You can see I've nicked the paint quite a few times on this, which is quite frustrating. I'll probably mask it all up and give it another couple of coats, clean it off, give it another couple of coats, because it has frustrated me. But anyway, they were not the easiest to slide on with to start with, and it did need to use some I've lost them now. Just some of these just to pull the boot down very carefully, because obviously I didn't want to tear the boot either. But these boots are made of quite strong stuff actually, so they're not too bad. And then once that was down, getting the actual CV joint onto the end. Let's use this one as a demonstration. It went on maybe, I don't know, 5-10 mil. Even though I greased both ends with the CV grease that they supply, it still needed a rubber hammer to knock it almost flush, and then it needed a further tapping with this and a hammer, just to tap round until I could see the recess where the circlip would go in, and that's when you know you've tapped out, because it seats nicely onto the can't see that, but onto the end of this lip here on the end of the drive shaft. It seats onto there, then you can get the circlip on the other end, which is fine. But I don't know, when I was doing it, it didn't feel that great, because I thought the CV joint would just slide on quite nicely and then you put the circlip on, but it did need quite a considerable amount of persuasion. And on the second one, I did it on the first one. On the second one, I tried the CV joint lots of different ways, and it didn't seem to be any easier, any of the particular ways. Obviously, these are the bolts that I treated and plated and stuff like that, and we know they're an inconsistent finish, but they're good enough for me with the connectors in between, and they've obviously gone all the way through. And you can't see, these ones don't appear all the way at the end, and these ones do. These ones come out flush, so that's okay. I will treat this bit and the bolts and stuff with a coat of this rust blocker clear coat, because these, even after just a couple of weeks in the garage, maybe a month in the garage, were showing some surface rust, so I'll treat those up. But other than that, I mean, seems all right. So I'll do the other one, get some footage. Oh yeah, and this clip. They supply these type clips, the squisher ones. I found it very hard to get this tight. I mean, even this one, if I push really hard, I mean, that's okay actually now, but if I pushed really hard when I first did it, it was, I could get it to move, and I found I just don't like these clips that much. So I've got a bag of these ones, the screw type clips. Someone might tell me that this is a bad idea, I don't know, but I don't know, I just find these tighten much better. They just feel more reliable, more robust. So that one went on that end because I kind of ruined the other one trying to get it tight. Okay, so we've got another one to do. We've got the bare pole things, CV joints, all that kind of stuff, and all the bits here. So, you know, let's get moving. Okay, so I've got the two ends on. 2 notches is outbound. One, what I mean by notches, this raised area. 1 inboard. So that should face to the diff. These 2 should face outbound. And obviously you pull that down quite far. I'll pull down the 2. I pulled that down quite far so I can get to this. And because we're doing the 2, we're doing the outboard first of all, which is this. And because this one is whatever thread it is, I've forgotten now. This is the driver's side anyway, which on my car seems to have these additional teeth for the driver's side. Okay, let's get this on. If you look closely on this, I don't know whether you can. Oh yeah, perfect. You see it's got a notched end. So this end has no notches. The end facing you to the camera seems to have those kind of notches, which to me I think is the area, it seems to be that few mil that I managed to get it on. So I tend to put it on with the notches down to give me that start and then tap it in. I hope that's right, otherwise I'm knackering for perfectly good CV joints. Right, the reason I stopped videoing then is that of course this side decided to do things slightly differently than the other side. Come on, get in, there we go. So I stopped filming because the shaft was refusing to go on. It got stuck and it wouldn't go. You see how it is now where I can put a circlip around it, which I'm about to do. It just got stuck part way on, and I've had to use some serious force to get these CVs on, including a socket over the top and that hammer, which is quite a hefty hammer, to really hammer down the CVs. I don't think that's a good thing. But I also don't know what else there was or should have been done by me, because let's try and make that a bit bigger and a bit closer. Because I did exactly the same thing on the other side, and yeah, they needed a bit of tapping, but not much. These needed a ridiculous amount of tapping. The only thing I can think is that I did use more of this CV joint grease on the shaft and inside the drive shaft before I put it in, and maybe it's actually a very thick grease. Well, it is a thick grease, and maybe actually that's created too much pressure inside there, and it wasn't squidging out enough, and it was getting stuck. And actually I shouldn't have done that at all, and I should have just tapped them on. I don't know. That's the only difference I can think of between them. They're the same parts, all the same numbers, etc. So have I wrecked my drive shafts by hammering these on? I don't know. But by the time they were on as far as they weren't coming off. So there's not many other ways to look at it, really. Okay, so we do still need a little bit more paint here. These do need still torquing up properly. Make sure they're on 38, 40 Newton meters. But I want to do that when it's on the car, when both ends are held, so it's a little bit easier. I hope I haven't broken them. That's all I can say. So yesterday we put these drive shafts together, but if you remember, I had to knock them together with a hammer, and apparently that is not cool. And it's not surprising, it didn't feel quite right at the time, but I thought maybe they're just a bit stiff and that's okay. But having consulted various oracles, these things have to be able to move even within the splines and that area. So you need to clean up the splines, make sure that even the tiniest amount of stuff is not there. Which means that even though I spent quite a lot of time putting these together, they've got to come basically completely apart now. And we need to try and get these CVs back off, which actually I think is going to be really hard work. So that's where we are. Wasted time yesterday, more wasted time today. Doesn't make things easier, but got to do it right. So off we go. Hello my furry friends. So where have we been? Up to no good is where we've been. So you probably saw in the last episode I rebuilt these drive shafts with all that stuff on the end and these, and I was advised that I had to really whale these on, the CV joints onto these shafts, drive shafts, and I was advised that I shouldn't have had to really whale them on. They should have maybe needed a little bit of force just to seat them onto this end bit here, but they shouldn't have had to be whaled on, which I really did. I had to knock them on pretty hard with a hammer. And so that may well be true that I shouldn't have had to weld them on, but I also probably didn't have to take them apart again, because to take them apart I had to destroy these, not destroy, but I had to dismantle these CV joints. So I had to pop these out with the ball bearings and everything and just leave this collar, or whatever you call it, in the middle bearing, I don't know, on the end of here. And then I had to use a puller to extract that off the end of there, because there was no way it was just coming off on its own, because it obviously had to be whaled on. Now these are just, they're in a variety of states of notchiness, if that makes sense. As in, you know, some of them one of them feels quite good, one of them feels a little notchy, and this one, I just can't get this one back together at all. Obviously this one's clean, because I cleaned it up to see whether it was something to do with the grease getting in the way. But it wasn't. I can get that back in there, and it moves most of it, but there's like 2 ball bearings where they're just stuck in their runners. They just won't run properly, and so I've just sack it all off. I bought 4 new ones of these that are going to come on top of the 4 new ones I already bought, and I'll rebuild these, and then that'll be it. I'll give these a proper clean, and I'll look really down the splines and try and get rid of any issues, so that hopefully they'll be easier to put on. But fundamentally that'll be it, and then the drive shafts will be put back together with those bolts there. So you remember with these drive shafts, I took them apart again and I've repainted them because they were really tight when I was knocking them onto here, and I was advised maybe they shouldn't be that tight. And I wasn't sure whether this was correct or not, so I stripped them all apart again, and I've needed to buy new ones of these because I couldn't rebuild them. Either way, probably didn't need to take them apart, but it's good to take them apart anyway, just to see. So if we see here, brand new CV. Let me see if we can bring this into your place there. So in theory, they shouldn't just slide on, because then they're too loose, but they should go in and then just need a light bit of tapping to get them in. And I needed to absolutely whale these in last time, like really kind of full swing hammer to get these seated. Now when they are seated, obviously there's a circlip that goes around here, and you can imagine that when they are seated, well, that's exactly what they should. We don't want any looseness in there. We prefer them tight than loose. But whaling them on is probably also not right, so we should have a look at these. Now, if this will zoom, yeah. So, I mean, yes, they're old drive shafts, so, you know, they have a few little knots, you see there, a few little nodules and bits and pieces there, but they're mainly lowered, not raised, if that makes sense. They're depressions or concave or whatever you want to call it, as opposed to raised up. And raised up is the thing that will stop the drive shaft coming in, right? So sorry, the CV joint going on the drive shaft. So there should be no issue. And I've examined all these and I've cleaned them properly now. I've degreased them, I've brake cleaned them, I've done all sorts of stuff to make sure they're clean. And this is the one that fits the best. So you see when it goes on here, it actually goes down that far without needing any tapping at all. And that to me would be quite nice, quite acceptable. And it comes off easily as well. But if I take the same CV joint and I flip the other end of this drive shaft, you'll see that when I put this one in, it goes on a little bit, but I don't know whether it's gone on quite as far. In fact, that might be similar, actually. So that's okay. But then if I take this one, the second drive shaft that I've got down here, so still the same CV joint for testing purposes. Oh, see, it doesn't go anywhere near as far. That's it. That's as far as it goes on. And I can tell that's going to need a lot of whaling to get that on the end so that I can circle a bit. Once I've got the boots on, let's just do the fourth one just for funs and giggles. Basically nothing, right? See, it's just kind of seated itself a tiny bit, but I've got a really long way to go. The other one is much more than half. And if I go around this one, you can see that, you know, yes, worn slightly, but nothing bad necessarily. So I think I'm just going to go for it again and accept that it's going to need a bit of whaling. But I'm not taking it apart again. That's it.